explore relationship topics, we spend our time here in this space trying to figure out how to deal with problem people. Well, what if you are the problem? Today we hold up a mirror and ask a kind of loaded question: am I a guilt tripper? Studio 5 contributor Dr. Julie Hanks says using guilt is a form of emotional manipulation. She is here with the signs and also a few solutions. Julie, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I came over here proud as punch because, full disclosure, I had kind of scoured through your notes ahead of time. And I said to Julie, I'm not a guilt tripper. I am not a guilt tripper. And Julie gave me a little smile, pat, pat. She goes, we all kind of are in some way, right?
Yes, we use guilt to get what we want. And let's go through a little, quiz.
Okay.
So viewers can see, okay, is this really me? We all do it.
Yeah,
so you're going to have some version of it. Okay. Sure. Do I have a hard time directly asking for what I want and need?
Okay.
Do I believe that others won't do what I want them to?
Believe others won't do, okay.
Do I think other people are responsible for my feelings?
And that's a big one. You've talked about that a lot.
Do I mope, sulk, or use a silent treatment frequently? Do I often feel powerless to get someone else to take action?
Now that, I think, is a really interesting question. Feeling powerless to get someone else to take action. Why would that turn me into a guilt tripper?
Because guilt is a form of getting someone to do what you want. I mean, really, it's about, it's kind of an indirect way to get our needs met.
I know I know you've thrown this out on social media, and the response actually tipped to one prominent gender. Yeah, and
it may be just because my followers, I have more women followers, but yeah, moms are a lot of the stories were about moms.
So these are people calling out their mom, calling out their sister?
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and it fits with what I know about women's socialization. We are socialized to be nice, to be kind, to not have needs, put others' needs before us. But honestly, we have feelings, we have needs, we have wants, we want to get things done. But it's like we've been trained to kind of go about it in indirect ways.
So if we use maybe your little social media response as a mini case study, informal case study, why do you think men weren't chiming in on this topic? How do they relate differently, or how do they handle the situation differently?
They just get mad and tell you, men are given permission to ask for what they want directly, to be upset if they don't get it, and to, they use more fear than guilt, I think.
Yeah, okay.
You think about dads and,
kind of the anger bursts that we're afraid of a little bit.
Yeah, and moms are the guilt trip. So.
But when you use, guilt trip kind of sounds a little bit light and surfacey. When you use the term emotional manipulation, that's when it carries this weight that makes you stand up and think, oh my goodness, am I that?
I know. And we all do this, and it is a form of emotional manipulation. Some people use it as a main strategy, and that's when it's really problematic, and you're probably pushing people away all the time.
Let's get to some solutions. If I found myself, or if someone found themselves in that quiz, you say the first step is to learn to identify your own needs before you even open your mouth.
Yes, and this is really hard for women. Again, we're socialized to think about the needs of others first. So often I'll ask someone, what do you want? What do you want to have happen? What do you need? And it's really hard to even come up with that. So an example, here's a guilt tripper doing their thing. If you really loved me, you'd make the time to take me to the doctor today.
Oh, well, how do you say no to that?
Well,
you don't, because you love that person.
Well, no, you say, oh, well, what I would say? Do you want to know what I would say to that?
Yeah, what would you say?
I would say, oh, so you're asking me if I can take you to the doctor today?
Taking the emotion out of it.
Right. I try to I try to direct people to make the request. So what are you really asking? I'm not going to deal with the love. That's manipulation.
Does that also leaks into drama a little bit? Is that fair to say?
For sure. Yeah. So directly, if I need to go to the doctor's, I'm going to say, hey, could you give me a ride to the doctor today? I'm out of options, and I would really appreciate it. So you're just saying, this is what I need. Can you help me? Instead of guilting.
Right. Just more straightforward.
Right.
So is it fair to say if guilt tripping is about getting what you want, then perhaps guilt trippers are thinking more about the what than the who? They're thinking more about what they need than the person they're asking it of? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did we talk about make direct requests?
Speaking directly to that person?
Yeah, speaking directly. Okay, great. I want to make sure we didn't miss that. So building relationships instead of building expectations, okay? So we can motivate people to do what we want, not all the time, but out of the relationship. Like I've been thinking a lot about this. I don't want my kids to come to Sunday dinner because they're afraid I'm going to feel bad. I want them to come because we have fun and we like being around each other. So instead of focusing on getting people to do what you want, build the relationship. Love is such a higher motivation than guilt or fear or shame or blame. So you want to go with building the kind of connection where people will be responsive to you because they want to, not because, oh, I've got to, do this because, or I'll, mom will cry all day or be alone or whatever. Yeah,
yeah. And it's interesting because there is a good intention.
Oh, totally.
At the base of it.
Totally. And this is not like blaming anybody. We all do this.
Yeah.
We all do this. It's just let's be aware of when we're doing it because it's not going to work. In the long run, it pushes people away.
The next step you say is to own your feelings. Yeah. So we've asked directly what we want, and now we're going to take ownership for how we're feeling about it.
Right. So often we try to go, this is your problem. You're responsible for making me feel okay. An example would be a divorced situation, and this was actually someone's real life example. Her mom said, if you go with your dad, I'll be all alone this weekend. So she's putting her loneliness, her lack of social connections
on the child.
Right? So the child's not responsible for the adult loneliness. The adult's responsible. Go get friends. Don't put that on the child. So it's really putting your painful emotions, trying to get someone else to own them and make you feel better. But it's not their job.
It's not their responsibility.
It damages the relationship.
Finally, you want guilt trippers everywhere to explore the undercurrent. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so if this is a chronic pattern, there might be something else going on. Like if you're always feeling powerless or you don't know what you need or you were guilt tripped, if you had a parent who used this strategy all the time, there's other deeper stuff going on. And so I call that the undercurrent. Like, okay, are you depressed? Are you just replaying some emotional manipulation that you had growing up? So look a little deeper if you kind of go, ooh, I do this all the time, because ultimately it's not going to get you what you want, because we want strong relationships, and this pushes people away.
Good stuff, Julie. Good insight, and I think a lot of people will find that quiz really interesting too, self-revealing even.
Yeah.
Hey, we talk about asking for what you want and identifying your needs. That all ties into a topic that you're really passionate about. You wrote about it in your book, The Burnout Cure.
Yes.
And I understand you're working on an e-course to support that.
I am, yeah. So I'm developing an e-course that women can go through 6 weeks and really kind of dig into what am I feeling, what do I need, and those questions that we often don't ask ourselves.
That's coming soon?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. We'll look for that on your website. Thank you so much, Julie. Good to see you. Well, from Alaska.